Lucy Morgan never wanted to be the center of attention. From childhood, she preferred the corners of the ranch to the living room of the family estate on the outskirts of Kentucky. She grew up among animals, tools, and accounting books. She learned from an early age that a good leader didn't need to shout to earn respect. She observed her father, Mr. Robert Morgan, manage the land with quiet firmness, while her mother, Mrs. Hope, even in silence, taught about dignity with the simple act of serving coffee to the workers at 5 in the morning, every day, without ever losing her composure. Sunrise Ranch had been for generations the pride of the Morgan family, known throughout the region for its corn crops and the production of artisanal bourbon that was beginning to gain international recognition. When her parents passed away just a year apart, it became Lucy's responsibility to take care of everything. She took over the ranch without fanfare. She made discreet adjustments, replaced obsolete machinery, digitized processes, and valued the team of workers who for decades had been loyal to her family. There were no fireworks, just solid results. She became a reference in the sector without appearing in newspapers. She preferred the anonymity of hard work to the stardom of those who show off. Sunrise Ranch prospered under her management, and although many neighboring ranchers initially doubted that a young woman could maintain the legacy, they soon had to eat their words. The harvests improved, the quality of the bourbon was refined, and the workers had never been happier or more committed. Lucy had that rare quality of making everyone feel valued, from the humblest day laborer to the most experienced master distiller. It was at a meeting of agricultural cooperatives in the state capital where she met the man who would change her routine. Michael Andrews was an agribusiness entrepreneur from Chicago, with studies abroad and a smile that melted hearts. He was gentle, helpful, praised her simplicity, and seemed genuinely interested in her essence. Over time, the two began dating. He constantly praised her. "I love how different you are from the pampered city women," he would say. At first, those words sounded like affection. Later, they began to sound like judgments. "You have something special, Lucy," he would tell her, as they walked together through the cornfields at sunset. "You're not like those spoiled girls from the Gold Coast who only think about shopping and showing off. You have your feet on the ground." Lucy smiled, but something inside her was unsettled. Was it a compliment or a way of pigeonholing her? The doubt grew. Something in his gestures seemed like an act. He was enchanted by what she represented, not by who she really was. She began to notice that Michael talked about her with a certain performative pride, like someone exhibiting a trophy before his friends from Chicago high society. "My girlfriend is an authentic rancher, the kind they don't make anymore," he would boast at business dinners to which he occasionally invited her. And, even more seriously, in some conversations, he would discreetly suggest that she shouldn't expose herself so much in working with the ranch hands. "Let the men handle that part," he told her once when she was personally helping to solve a problem with the distillery equipment. "A woman like you should focus on the administrative part, in the main house." The seed of doubt germinated strongly when, during one of Michael's visits to the ranch, Lucy found him talking to Mrs. Charlotte, the head cook, in a condescending way she had never seen before. His polite manners transformed when he thought she wasn't around. With Uncle George, the foreman who had been working for the Morgans for 30 years, his tone was equally disdainful when he thought Lucy couldn't hear him. "These ranchers are so simple," he once commented to a friend on the phone, "but you have to know how to handle them so everything works as it should." It was then that she decided to test Michael's true feelings. To do this, she created a disguise. She hired a support team to coordinate the ranch under her remote supervision and accepted a temporary job at a neighboring farm, one that she had quietly purchased months earlier, keeping the former managers to preserve anonymity. She used a fictitious name, Rose, simple clothes, and hair pulled back in an unpretentious manner. No makeup, no luxuries. There she would be just one more among the rural workers of Hope Farm, a name she had chosen in honor of her mother. Michael had been hired by her without his knowledge as a management consultant at the new property, a position he accepted with enthusiasm, seeing the opportunity to expand his contacts in the bourbon sector. He didn't even recognize the woman who had been his companion for the past few months, and that was exactly what she wanted. The first surprise came soon on the second day. He called her a clumsy farm girl after she misplaced a fence post, not knowing that she herself had designed that project weeks before. "This is how these posts should be handled, little girl," he told her in a tone that mixed condescension and mockery. "It's obvious you've never done real work." The second occurred when, in a conversation with other workers during lunch under the shade of trees, he stated that women in the field are only for taking care of chickens or the kitchen. The others laughed uncomfortably. She remained silent. Sam, a young day laborer, was the only one who didn't smile and gave her an apologetic look. Michael continued, "My girlfriend owns a ranch, but she knows her place. She consults with me on important decisions." Lucy clenched her fists under the table, but maintained her role. She was just beginning to discover who the man she had planned to share her life with really was. The third revelation was more subtle. Lucy observed how Michael flattered a visiting landowner, Mr. Joseph Walker, but scorned the manager who asked him for technical advice on corn fermentation. His respect was selective, based solely on the social and economic status of people. "Let me finish with Mr. Walker," he had told the manager, a 60-year-old man who had spent his entire life working with distilling. "These things are not for people like you to understand." The fourth surprise was Michael's attempt to flirt with her discreetly, finding it amusing to hit on a dull ranch girl, as she heard him tell his friends on the phone. "There's a girl here, Rose, who looks at me with puppy dog eyes. I swear, Sebastian, these country girls are so easy to impress." She pretended not to understand his insinuations, avoiding his advances with the excuse of having more work to do. What hurt Lucy the most wasn't the hurtful words or the falsehood, but confirming that the man she had met in Kentucky was just a mask, a well-rehearsed performance to impress and get what he wanted. Michael Andrews didn't love Lucy Morgan. He coveted Sunrise Ranch and the reputation that came with it. The fifth revelation occurred on a Sunday, when, tired after a long day inspecting corn, she sat alone in the shade of a warehouse and heard Michael tell his colleagues that people like that shouldn't even have the right to an opinion on how to run a business. There, the wound transformed into certainty. It hurt, but it also liberated. Each day she spent at Hope Farm, Lucy rediscovered parts of herself she had forgotten. She remembered the sensation of working directly with the earth, something she had stopped doing when administrative responsibilities consumed her time. With her hands in the soil and the sun on her back, she felt a connection to her roots that offices and board meetings had diluted. It was as if, by being invisible, she rediscovered the quiet strength she had always admired in her parents. Among the workers, Lucy found a community that valued honest effort above appearances. Sam, that young laborer who hadn't laughed at Michael's chauvinistic comments, became a silent ally. She noticed how he subtly defended her, how he taught her tricks to make the work easier without making her feel inferior, how he respected her space and ideas. "My grandmother always said that the best teachers are those who also know how to be students," Sam shared with her one afternoon while they were sorting corn. "You listen, Rose, and that's rare these days." The sixth revelation was emotional. She realized she wasn't just testing Michael, she was rediscovering herself. During those weeks, Lucy had connected more deeply with the workers than in years of running Sunrise from her office. She learned their stories, their struggles, their dreams. Mrs. Janet, the cook at Hope Farm, taught her traditional recipes that had been passed down for generations. Old Tom, the master distiller, revealed secrets of the craft that he would never have shared with the boss, but which he entrusted to Rose, the humble worker who always asked with genuine interest. The seventh revelation came when Sam, inspired by suggestions she made discreetly, proposed a change in the irrigation routine. It worked. Efficiency improved notably, and the crops responded immediately. And without knowing the idea came from her, Michael tried to take credit. "I knew my experience would be valuable for this place," he boasted in front of the manager. "That boy is just following my directions." The eighth revelation came with an anonymous letter left at the door of her simple room in the workers' quarters. You're different. You listen. Keep it up." Signed by Mrs. Janet, who had never before been heard in her 40 years working on farms. "The ideas of kitchen women rarely reach the fields," she confessed afterward, "but you took my suggestion about composting as if it were your own, and now everyone is implementing it." Meanwhile, Michael still didn't recognize her. Each day he became more comfortable revealing his true personality: ambitious, classist, manipulative. On one occasion, she heard him talking on the phone about his future plans. "When I marry Lucy, the first thing will be to modernize that outdated ranch. We'll sell to those American buyers who have so much interest. I'll convince her it's for the best. She trusts my judgment so much it will be easy." Lucy's heart shrank, but her determination grew. The 9th revelation was the call for a collective meeting to celebrate the good harvest numbers. A small party would be organized in the central courtyard of Hope Farm, with food, music, and words of gratitude. It would be the perfect occasion. She took advantage of the moment to reveal herself. She let Michael begin the speech, as always full of self-confidence and grandiose words about his contribution to the farm's success. "Thanks to the modern techniques I've implemented and the strategic direction I've provided, this farm is reaching its true potential," he said proudly as the workers listened in respectful silence. "Some might think traditional methods are better, but I've shown that the future lies in the innovation I bring from my international experiences." And then, calmly, Lucy interrupted him. She removed her hat, let down her hair, raised her chin. The transformation was subtle but powerful. She didn't need makeup or elegant clothes for her natural presence to manifest. Some workers gasped as they recognized her. Michael stood paralyzed, with his mouth half open and eyes bulging. "Good afternoon, everyone," she said in a clear, firm voice. "My name is not Rose. I am Lucy Morgan, owner of Sunrise Ranch and also the owner of this farm, Hope Farm." A murmur ran through the crowd. "I came here looking for answers, and I found them." In the midst of the astonished silence, Lucy continued, "I want to thank each of you for teaching me so much these weeks, for treating me as an equal, for sharing your wisdom, for showing me the value of honest work and the importance of community." Her eyes briefly rested on Sam, on Mrs. Janet, on old Tom, and on each face that had welcomed her without knowing who she really was. "I learned more working among you than in 10 years of managing from an office." Finally, she looked directly at Michael. "And to you, Michael, thank you for showing me without filters who you are when you think no one important is watching you." The color drained from the man's face. His hands trembled slightly as he tried to maintain his composure. "Lucy, I can explain. This isn't what it seems." She raised a hand with the same serene authority she had seen in her father throughout her childhood. "I don't need explanations. Actions speak louder than words, and I've seen enough." The 10th and final revelation wasn't dramatic. It was silent. Michael left Hope Farm without saying another word, shame and surprise painted on his face. He tried to contact her days later, bombarding her with messages and calls that she decided not to answer. Lucy, for her part, returned to her original headquarters with new eyes and new ideas. She didn't need to shout, publicly expose, or vengefully retaliate. Her lesson was given with the same currency with which she had always lived, with dignity, strategy, and firmness. In the following months, she implemented profound changes. She created a program to incentivize female leadership in the field, promoted internal training, and increased the participation of female workers in administrative decisions. She hired Mrs. Janet as head cook at Sunrise, with a fair salary and the opportunity to develop gourmet products based on her traditional recipes. Old Tom became the official master distiller, in charge not only of production, but of transmitting his knowledge to new generations. She invited Sam to join the Sunrise team as crop supervisor, recognizing his intelligence, work ethic, and respect for everyone. Hope Farm was transformed into a training center for rural women, where they learned everything from farm management to modern cultivation techniques. The name proved prophetic. Hope was exactly what Lucy wanted to sow in every woman who passed through its doors. "My mother taught me that true strength doesn't need to be displayed," she would tell the students during graduation ceremonies. "It's in consistency. in patience, in knowing when to speak and when to listen. The success of her initiatives didn't take long to attract attention. Lucy began to receive invitations to speak at conferences, to advise other farms, to share her business model that combined tradition with innovation. This time, unlike in the past, she decided not to hide. She accepted some invitations, always prioritizing those that could benefit her community. At one of these conferences in New York City, she came face to face with Michael for the first time since that day at Hope Farm. He had lost some of his former shine. His businesses weren't doing as well as he had expected. He saw her from a distance and approached with evident discomfort. "Lucy, you look good," he said, trying to sound casual. "I'm glad to see you succeeding." She smiled without resentment, but without warmth. "Thank you, Michael. I hope you've learned as much from our experience as I have." It wasn't forgiveness she was offering, but recognition of a shared lesson. He nodded with a humility that seemed genuine for the first time. Every day, he simply responded before saying goodbye. Months later, Lucy received a letter from Michael. He wasn't asking for a second chance or justifying himself. He simply thanked her for the lesson that, though painful, had shown him his own prejudices and the superficiality with which he had lived. He attached a donation for the Rural Women's Training Center. She accepted the donation with the same spirit in which it was offered, as an act of reparation, not redemption. At sunrise, life continued with renewed energy. The harvests improved, the bourbon won international awards, and most importantly, the community prospered together. Lucy learned to better balance her time between administrative work and the field, never forgetting the valuable perspective she had gained by being Rose for a few weeks. One afternoon, while supervising the harvest alongside Sam, he asked her something he had wanted to know since the revelation. "At what point did you suspect that I knew who you really were?" Lucy smiled. "When you defended me from Michael without expecting anything in return. Nobody does that for a simple, newly arrived worker." Sam laughed. "I recognized you on the third day. Your way of analyzing the plants, your manner of giving directions without sounding bossy, that's your signature, Lucy Morgan. You couldn't hide it even under 10 hats." What began as a friendship based on mutual respect blossomed over time into something deeper. Sam wasn't like Michael. He wasn't interested in Lucy's status or fortune. He valued her intelligence, her compassion, her vision. And she admired his integrity, his wisdom born of experience, his ability to see the real value of people beyond appearances. Together, they transformed Sunrise and Hope Farm into models of ethical and sustainable management that other farms began to emulate. Their bourbons, produced with respect for both tradition and innovation, became symbols of excellence and fair trade. Lucy became a symbol of respect, not only for her exemplary management, but for the courage to have faced doubt with intelligence and heart. The women from nearby communities began to call her the boss, but not as a title of hierarchical distance, rather as recognition of genuine leadership. And most of all, she reaffirmed her own value, not to prove something to Michael, but to never again forget who she really was. The most valuable lesson, Lucy shared years later with new generations of rural women, wasn't discovering falsehood in others, but recognizing the truth in myself. Because when you know who you are, no one can define you by their limitations. Dear listeners, we hope that Lucy Morgan's story has moved you and left you with a lesson about the value of authenticity and respect. To continue this emotional journey through American farms and the life lessons they provide, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories about strong women who transform their communities. Find it here by clicking to your left. If you liked this story of personal growth and dignity, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexity of rural American life and the universal lessons it offers. Have you ever experienced a situation where you had to prove your true value? Or do you know someone like Lucy in your community? We're waiting for you in the comments to share your experiences.